Hey everyone, this is Joe from On the Move, and I wanted to let you know that today's episode with Joseph Bentz is brought to you by Nick Dower's Cowboy Week. Cowboy Week is an online streaming service that has videos pertaining to all things colt starting, ranching, and cow horse. If you'd like to purchase Cowboy Week, you can go to nickdowers.com/Cowboy Week and use coupon code ONTHEMOVE to save 10% off your purchase today. Now, here's Joseph Bentz.
Oh, what year was that? That was 2020, the summer of 2021. Yep.
Okay.
That's kind of, I went to college for about a year and a half, year and 3/4, and it just wasn't my thing, and so I wanted to go get better, and so I emailed Nick and asked for a job or give me an opportunity to come try it out, and we got in contact and got to come down here for 4 or 5 days, and after the 4 or 5 days he asked me when could I come back, and I told him about 4 or 5 days to help the family get some stuff situated, and then I moved everything down here and was down here for a little over 2 years.
Gotcha. So you worked for him for a while then?
Yeah, yep. I wanted to work a little longer, but kind of stuff in the family, we were splitting up the place, and so kind of wanted to go back and start my next chapter of learning that business a little more.
Yeah. So it's Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Where you're from? Okay, so where exactly in Oregon?
It's called Juntura. It's about 2 hours from Boise, Idaho.
Okay.
So
kind of Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then where'd you go to? I know you didn't stay there long, but like, where'd you go to school, and like, what were you kind of thinking when you went that direction?
I went to TVCC because it was no, I didn't go to TVCC. I went to CSI, which is Southern College of Idaho, and I went over there because they had a really good rodeo team, and I didn't have any rodeo scholarships, but I loved rodeoing, so I wanted to get into that. So I tried out for the team, got on the team there, rodeoed, and then I wanted to, I knew I wasn't going to really graduate college going into it, so I used college about getting as much classes that kind of portrayed to what my lifestyle was going, which is the ranching. So I took a lot of like ag business, just a bunch of business classes.
Sure.
And management classes, and so that's kind of how I used college. And then once I got through all those classes, I kind of felt like I was twiddling my thumbs and ready to go do something else. And out of college, I was sitting around a lot and not doing a lot, and that was not my style.
Yeah.
And so
what were you riding Bronx, or what were you doing?
Yeah, I team roped and South Bronx rode.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it was wise that you were like, I could stand to get some of the education, but yeah, there's definitely some instances, depending on what you're going to do for a living, where college you kind of get a point of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Where, you know, in a lot of areas, like having the degree or having the piece of paper is not going to help you moving forward. Like that was, like I have a degree in engineering and I don't use it at all.
Yeah.
So no, that was wise.
And sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like I learned so much more because like down here than college, than those classes in a way, because I came down here and within the first like week and a half, I told Nick and his dad Rod exactly why I was here. I wanted to better myself in the horsemanship, but like it's not what I'm gonna like I'm going to be leaving at some point because I have a family ranch that I'm going to go back to.
Yeah.
And when I told him that, man, like, Nick's a phenomenal guy on a horse, but he and his dad helped me so much more on, like, managing people in a way and just kind of taking more of a little bit of a management role, which Nick helped me with, of like, not too much, but just enough where it was giving me some experience there. And I thought that was really cool of him to do, because he could have just been like, no, go ride my horses, go move my cows and stuff around. But he did so much more than that for me. And so I have a lifetime friend, and this family, like, if I ever need anything, whether it's on the ranch, like, hey, this is the situation I'm in, like, can I get some help from you guys? They are more than willing to help me, and so I really appreciate the connection I have there with them.
Yeah. Well, talking with Nick and with Rod, they're both very, very business savvy and I feel like pretty upfront with people about what I would consider like good business practices and good business ethics.
Yes.
And that's cool that from your perspective it sounded like he approached it as, well, this kid's going to come and work for me, but how can I add value back to him? And I've heard him say that this week, whether it's some of the principles he's teaching people, and they're not like horsemanship principles per se, but he was talking about, this is the difference between, making futurity finals and not making futurity finals. And then this is the difference between having a ranch this big or managing a ranch this big. Yeah. And those keys to success, it's clear whoever comes to work for him, he really tries to set them up. So
100%.
Yeah. But also, I think you should give yourself some credit, because not a lot of people at that age would necessarily come in to a job like this and have as much direction as you did, where you could come in and say, hey, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm here to learn. And that's something that I think not everyone has when they're like 19, 20, 21. They're kind of like, well, try this out, try that out. And, everyone's story is different. You got to figure out what role you want to play in the world and everything like that. But for you to have that direction and come in here, it's not like you kind of hemmed and hawed and sat on horses for 4 months before you knew what you wanted to get out of this deal.
Yeah. I think what helped me a lot with that was, if I came here right out of high school, I think I would have been in a little different mentality, just because I would have been like, man, I'm missing out on college or stuff like that, where I went and did the college thing, which was partying and doing all that and everything, and kind of just, in a way, growing up, not really growing up, but just getting it out of my system.
Mm-hmm.
And
getting away from home.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a big part. That was probably one of the biggest things that college did for me, was just like, now you're not a kid, you're out around peers, not at home, and you're the only one in charge of how you present yourself to the world.
Yep. And so with that kind of just like, once I got to that point of like, okay, what do I want to do? And I've always been passionate about the horses and training there, the colts at home. I've always had a passion for it, and so I've always watched Nick's videos and stuff, and that's how I just knew that he was kind of the guy I wanted to go work for. And is in my mind, it was Nick Dowers, and like, oh, there's no way he's gonna hire me and all this stuff. And it's kind of funny, you get that in your mind, and then you come down here and you're like, heck, he's human too. It's just it's Nick. Yeah. And before, man, talking to him is just like, I get so excited and like almost like is Nick, and so
Yeah.
it's hard. It's just when you meet your role model, kind of a deal, and be able to go work for him. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, and that's another thing I think you gotta give Nick credit for. He makes himself very approachable
Yes.
around here.
Yep.
It's not like he comes stomping in and everyone is like pins and needles.
Yeah.
In a good way or a bad way. Like, because you could definitely create that culture if you wanted. If he wanted to, he could.
Oh, for sure.
Of like, I'm the big guy, my brand's on everything. Not just his brand, but his brand's literally his face, you know?
Yeah.
And so,
He's a very, very humble human being.
yeah, for sure.
Very humble. And like, I kind of talked in the yesterday morning with a bunch of guys and kind of with Nick and stuff. Like, there's no, here at Cowboy Week kind of a deal, there's no egos. Like,
Yeah.
no one, you look around and it's like no one seems bigger than the other person. Like, we all know that's why we're here, is to learn.
Mhm.
And we know he's the one that's gone to the finals and everything, and we want to learn from him, but you can't tell that. If
Yeah.
an outsider came here and looked, like, you would never really notice that, because it's just not like, oh, I'm Nick and everything. Like, no, it's just like, hey, let's go do this, and like everyone kind of just helps each other. It's a pretty cool environment. Like,
Yeah.
with this many high level people, it's pretty hard to get that environment, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's a pretty unique setup. One, the talent he's brought together, but two, what you just described, where no one there's the best way to put it really is there's no ego. No one's thumping their chest. No one's saying like, gather around and I'll bestow some knowledge on you or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's cool too that no one's acting like that, but it also seems like people aren't afraid if they do see something. Like, it's kind of like everyone's here to get better. So I've seen that where someone's like, oh, what are you doing there? Blah, blah, blah. You know, like Ryan might ask somebody or whoever it is, like, what are you doing there? And they just visit about it, and it's not like, oh, this guy's picking on me or this guy thinks that about me. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool for sure. So so you worked for him for 2 years, and you said you started in like 22?
The summer of 21. I think it was like
21. Okay.
April. Yeah, April of 21.
So you worked for him for about 2 years. What was some of the biggest stuff you got out of that? I know you just talked about the ranching practices, but I mean, I've heard you talk about all the chasing wild cattle stories, and then working all the colts and stuff like that. Can you talk about a few of the big takeaways that were maybe even a shock when you got here, and now it's just kind of part of your life?
Yeah. Big one was like I started. I'm not saying I started a ton of colts, but I started a lot of colts before I came to Nick's and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And coming down here, like, for example, we'd bring in our colts and they were halts broke, and then the next year we would bring them in and we'd go to saddle on them. Like, there was no preparation or anything like that, or any feel. It was just like, get the saddle on them as soon as possible and get a ride on them, and then we're going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And coming down here, that is the complete opposite of what we do down here. We follow a field down here, we do everything, and so that was a huge shock of like just how much of a horseman he is. Like, I knew he was good, but once I got here and saw this, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen a horse really slide or like spin a hole in the ground like he had them and stuff. And so the first day I came here, I knew I wanted to work here, kind of a deal. So that was a big one. And then just learning kind of like goes back to the same deal. We ranched and stuff. I grew up ranching and kind of had a feel for cows, but just how he taught me just so much more of a feel. And like down here on this desert, they're a little wilder, and you got to go at them a little different than just a black beef cow where you could just push them around wherever you want. These ones, they're pretty touchy, and you have to have a lot of feel. And so learning that was a pretty big learning curve, but it was really awesome at the same time. And so all that stuff, I mean, I could talk for hours on all the stuff I learned down here. And I get 2 years sounds like a long time, but in the long term of things, it really wasn't that long, and it went by really, really fast.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I mean, things, I don't know if Cowboy Week might even be slowed down because like people are here, but it does seem like things operate pretty full throttle around here all the time.
Yep, that guy is like, I thought our family worked hard, and we work pretty hard, but this guy takes it to a whole nother level, which is really cool because it builds you up and builds you, like, he teaches you how, like, if you want to learn how to work, come work for him, because this guy will teach you how to work. And if you can work here and like this seems pretty normal, like you get this normal of like this work ethic and stuff, you could go work anywhere and like it'll be a breeze, because I mean, we go full bore and you learn a lot, and it's pretty awesome. I really enjoyed it. Goes back to the college thing. I was twiddling my thumbs to the complete opposite of just like going and blowing kind of a deal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the nice thing too, I haven't been here very long, but it seems like Dyer doesn't exactly have a lot of distractions outside of work.
No, you work 6.5 days a week for all year long, kind of a deal. And even when you do get a day off, there's not a lot to go do.
Yeah.
It's pretty desolate out here, and so it's a fun place if you're okay being out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is kind of funny, is like he told me that when I came here, and I was like, I'm pretty okay with the middle of nowhere, because I was like, what's your population? And he said it, and I think it's like 200 or 300 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you got about 150 more people than are in my town. So I was like, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a huge shock when I came down here.
Sure.
Because I was pretty used to driving an hour and a half to go get groceries and stuff like that, because that's what I've been doing my whole, like, growing up, that's what we had to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Just different from what a lot of people are accustomed to, but not in my opinion, not like unreasonable way to live. Like, you just kind of manage your life a little differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, something else that strikes me about your story and coming here and learning from the Dowers, to me, at least from the outside looking in, you don't know the whole story anywhere, but the relationship with like Nick and Rod and Nick's brother and how they built this place, they seem like a really good example of a family business. And I know from personal experience that's something that ranches can really struggle with, is how to deal with doing business with family members, and then things like succession and all that sort of stuff. Did you feel like you got any sort of way to approach that? Because you were going back to work with your family, right? And, it could have been like you guys were already operating on that side pretty solid. But to me, again, from the outside looking in, I think a guy could come here and learn a lot about like how a family business should operate, because they seem like a really good example of that.
For sure. Yeah. They do a really good job with that, and as everyone knows, working with family can be difficult because if they aren't family and somebody kind of bugs you or ticks you off, you can kind of move on from it. But when it's family, it's a little bit different and a little tougher because you also grew up with them and you know tendencies and stuff like that. And so I think it's really cool when families can work together and do that because that takes a lot to do.
Yeah. So could you talk about going home after Nick's and what that looked like? And at that point, it was the first time moving back home in like 3.5 years, if my math's correct. So now you're not Joe the kid. You're Joe the person who's been out in the world, and you're going to come back and hopefully contribute to the operation. Not that you weren't before, but now that's going to be kind of your main motive professionally. So can you talk about that transition?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate, like our families works really well together, and so transitioning back was pretty easy actually. Like, because we only have 1 or 2 guys that work for us, and then the rest is just family, and so it is a lot of work, and so coming back, I went right back into stuff, but I just took a little bit of a different role. I kind of took over the colt starting of the back home, and so that's kind of my main job. But I kind of also call myself the floater because we have some family run the haying, and they kind of go around on the cow side too, but they're the manager of the haying, and then we have the manager of kind of the cows and that part. And so I was kind of the middle guy that floated back and forth mainly between the haying and the cow side of things, and then the colt starting. And so I really enjoy it doing that because that's why I enjoy ranching. Is there's so many, you're not doing the same thing every day. Sure. Like every day brings a new opportunity to learn and a new task and a new hiccup kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that.
Turn this just so I can keep track of the time here.
So with that, can you talk about your family's program a little bit as far as it? So it's kind of like a 3-pronged deal then, right? The cattle, horses, and the hay.
Yep.
Yeah. And so talk about the horse program, because we've had a lot of people on here who maybe they'll run cattle and then and they'll have a caddy and maybe even like sell ranch geldings, but you're probably the first person we've had on where the family business is cattle and breeding horses.
Yeah. So yeah.
Not the first person we've had on, but the first person who's on the younger side of the family.
Yeah. Yeah. So our ranch is like we run a pile of it's a cow-calf operation, and mom and dad started a broodmare bunch and for the use on the ranch, just so you didn't have to go out and buy colts, which those kids are reaping that reward because they started a really nice little broodmare band, and so being able to every year have those colts to start, and then we go right into, like I said, start them, go use them on the ranch, and then mom and dad also started a rancher, we call it Rancher's Horse Sale, which is 3 people started, my uncle, Hoot Rainey, and my dad and mom. They started it like, I think we're on our 35th or 36th year, something like that, of doing the horse sale. And throughout the years, people have kind of got off of it, so now it's just mainly our family that runs it. And so we find 30 just nice ranch geldings, and it's just an avenue for us to move our older horses that were just, they're good horses, but we have young ones up and coming, and so we can get them, sell them to the public, and the public have loved them, and we just try keeping our reputation as good as we possibly can. And I think that shows because we've been doing it for 35 years. We are pretty strict on who we let in. Like a lot of people, like we've had consigners that have been there for 15 to 20 years that have brought a horse every year. And there's about 18 to 19 of those people that bring a horse every year. And so we try building the reputation like that, where just good, honest people, and they bring a good, honest product is pretty much how it goes. And if we have that, you keep your reputation good.
Yeah, absolutely. But as you alluded to, there's a lot of legwork in the beginning that your parents did to, one, have the quality stock for you guys, but to build that brand and build that reputation.
For sure.
Yeah. And it's stuff like that. It's interesting how to get the quality of some places today, it almost does have to be a multi-generational enterprise where we're going to start this, before we even have the kids, and then one day if the kids choose, they'll reap the benefits.
Yeah, and we are very fortunate for that because there's not a lot of places that have that luxury. And
yeah, absolutely.
And so like I went out, me and my brother Ethan, like he went and bought a Would He Be Tough last year, a stud prospect, so he has that one. And then I went and this fall I bought a son of Stevie Ray Vaughan. And so just where it's been fun is Mom and Dad got the horses, the Broodman and this stuff to here, and then Ethan and I, for our sake, like I really like riding a little more of a performance horse, and so does he, and so we're advancing our stuff a little bit more on that, and so just kind of building what Mom and Dad built, building it to the next level kind of a deal.
Yeah. And it's cool, I feel like you're seeing a lot of that where the growth in the performance horse world in the last 10 years has resulted in a lot of kind of family ranch bands like you're talking about. They're bringing in those genetics because the volume of horses now, the genetics are more available than they ever have been, right? They might be expensive, but there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if 30 years ago something like y'all's ranch could have gone and gotten those names the way you can now.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool because you're seeing that everywhere. So it'll be interesting to see where that leads down the line, kind of mixing these, like, in a way, more historic ranch bloodlines with the new stuff.
Yeah.
So kind of the tagline of this whole deal, where does Road to the Horse come in on all of this? So you're back at the family ranch, you're floating around, starting colts, helping with hay, helping with cattle, doing all that deal. And where does the idea to participate in Road to the Horse come from?
So, yeah, it was this last summer, and I was actually stacking hay and stuff, and Nick texted me, he's like, hey, whenever you have a free time, give me a call, we need to talk. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So he calls me. He's like, hey, Tammy, she called and asked if I knew of any wild card young guys that would be interested in doing the wild card for Road to the Horse. And Nick told her, yeah, I might have a kid that would be interested. And so Nick called me and we talked about it, and I was like, well, it's like, it'd be a really cool opportunity, but like, I want to think about it.
Yeah.
I think I hung up the phone, and within I called my brother Ethan, and we talked a little bit about it, and I think within about 5 to 6 minutes, I called Nick back and told him, I was like, yep, like, as soon as I hung up the phone, I was pretty sure I wanted to do it, but just kind of another view from somebody, and so called Nick and told him I'd love to do it, and so then I got in touch with Road to the Horse and talked to them, and I was fortunate enough for them to pick me as a wild card.
Yeah.
And so been going through that process of like getting ready for that, and the cool part is I was pretty worried about who I was going to have help me, because I wanted Nick to help me, because he's been the turning point for me on my horsemanship skills and everything. But in the past, some of his horse shows have overlapped, but where some stuff has been changed around, I told him this, and he goes, I was like, man, I don't know who I'm going to use as my deal. And he's like, I already got that handled. And so I was like, oh, what do you mean? Like, who? And he's like, me. And so that was a really cool honor to be able to have Nick in my corner, where he's kind of progressed me and built me to who I am in the my horsemanship. And so I am very honored to have him go to Lexington and help me compete.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, part of it, obviously, and probably the most important part, is y'all's relationship and what he clearly means to you. But from just a competition standpoint, because he's won it twice.
Yeah,
right?
he's competed 3 times and has won it twice.
Right. And has he judged it as well? Or?
No, he has not judged it.
Okay, yeah. I heard him talking about the judging criteria, and I didn't know if he had gotten that from competing or judging or...
From competing and stuff, and so...
Yeah. But
that's a huge
hard,
advantage.
Hard to beat, yeah.
Huge advantage, because he's been involved in it multiple times. He knows the game really well, and so it's been a lot of fun being able to come down here, practice with him in a kind of a competition format of what we've been doing, and so I just more than ecstatic to go do it with him.
Yeah. That's great, man. That's awesome. So, can you talk about when you got that call? Can you talk about all the reasons you and your brother felt like it was a good idea to go and do Road to the Horse?
Yeah. It's kind of like you hear about Road to the Horse and you're like, oh, that's one of the bigger colt starting events that's known around.
Yeah.
And
I would say nationally it's probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yep. And so just having the honor of like someone thinking of me, thinking that I would be good enough to go compete in that was really, really cool. And so we kind of mulled it over, and mainly the biggest thing I was mulling it over is I didn't know who was going to be my helper. That was my biggest holdback. Like, I wanted to go do it because there's a lot of people that don't get that opportunity to go there that do want to go there. And so I didn't want to just like shrug off the opportunity. Like, I wanted it pretty bad. And Nick helping me along with that, I just thought that was the coolest that I'm kind of pretty fresh from working with him, but with how many people has worked for him and everything. And I was the one that got he called mean kind of deal. I thought that was very, very nice of him and stuff, and to think of me, because he has a lot of people that he could have go take over there and put in that position, and he was nice enough to pick me, and so I was excited when I got that call. It was pretty hard to hold my composure with him because I didn't want to like just kind of lose it with him. So I was like, I better mull it over. I'm gonna get off the phone here, and man, I got off, and as soon as we got off the phone, I knew I wanted to go do it.
Awesome. That's great. Well, talk a bit about what you're going into, because you're in the wild card deal.
Yeah.
And so you'll have 3 other people you're competing against in the wild card deal, and that's earlier in the week. And then whoever wins the wild card goes into the main competition.
Yep.
Yeah. So can you explain that format a little more?
Yeah. So just like you said, I'm going to be competing against 3 other people, and we all compete pretty much at the exact same time. And so you go in, they bring in pretty much barely halter broke horse. I think it's a 2-year-old, 3-year-old or something. They're kind of an older little horse to be starting in a way. But you get the first session, I think it's like an hour and 30 minutes. And there's a bunch of stuff you got to do, like breaks and stuff like that. So I think in total work time, you get like an hour and 20 minutes. And so that's the first session, and you got to get it caught, played with, and everything. Essentially, your main goal is to get it rode in that first hour and 30 minutes. But there's colts that are harder, so you might not.
Yeah.
And then the second session, you get, I think it's a total time of an hour, but you only get, I think, 55 minutes in total working time with the colt. And so, same deal. In that, you got to get it caught, haltered, saddled, and played with, and hopefully get a ride on in the round crowd. And then they have areas you can go ride your colt outside the round crowd. So those are your 2 pretty much working sessions, and then you get 20 minutes to get your colt caught, saddled, and on, and then you got to leave the round pen. And you get 15 minutes for the wild card. You get 15 minutes to they call it do their rail work, which is a walk, trot, lope, both directions, stop, back up, 180-degree turn, both directions, get off, pick up all 4 feet, and lead it, and then get back on and do an obstacle. But so, I mean, you don't have a lot of time, and you got to do pretty much all the stuff with the colt.
Yeah.
Which
now are you involved at all in the colt selection, or is that luck of the draw?
Oh yeah. So I think you draw from a hat, and whoever has the lowest number gets to pick their colt first.
Okay.
And so, let's say I pick one. So I go and I pick my colt. But later on, like the farther you get, the bigger the number, you might not get the colt you want or something like that. And so, like you said, it's kind of luck of the draw in a way.
Yeah, okay. So that, in the main deal, don't they, like, I know they draw numbers or some sort of way who selects first is decided. Yep. But they pick it more out of a cabbie, don't they?
Yep. So, they turn 5 or 6 horses in there, and you kind of pick the one you want out of there.
Gotcha. So, and this will be over 2 days, but basically it's 3 sessions.
Yep.
Yeah, two like kind of educational ones, and then you get the 20 minutes to go.
Yep.
Show what you got going on.
Yep.
Awesome. And we visited about it briefly the other day, but you've been practicing with Nick, and it's not like when you're starting a colt at the ranch, you can just take forever.
Yeah.
But the timeline, I imagine, I don't know that it changes anything, but it might change how you look at stuff.
For sure.
Yeah. Not, I knowing Nick and knowing you the brief time I've met you, I don't think it's going to change any of your horsemanship core principles or anything. But can you just talk about that timeline a little bit, or maybe any you don't have to give away any secret sauce, but anything maybe you and Nick visited about, just like, hey, when you're in this arena, there's this and that, and maybe you can be a little more efficient this way if the colt allows.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, back on the ranch, if you have a problem colt, you kind of can spend a few days before you kind of put a ride on them and stuff, but there's a lot of pressure that comes with that under the time and stuff, so just trying to get through it the best you can and do the best for the horse, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And because it is a competition, but at the end of the day, it's still trying to do the best for the horse, because he's going to be your outcome. And so if you don't do what's best for the horse in a way, your outcome might not be the greatest. And because the time will kind of show that in a way, because you're pushing them so much. And
yeah.
But that's what's the cool part about it, is you got to push them, but at the same time have some horsemanship to you.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a lot of fun and a big challenge because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And then I'm asking the question, so this is not you counting chickens before they hatch or anything, but can you explain then, say the wild card goes well, how does the rest of the road to the horse work?
Yeah, so if I advance on, then you go into the main event, and I think you get a little more time in each session than you would in the wild card, but the thing that changes biggest is the final, the rail work. You do the same rail work as the wild card, but then there's a whole obstacle course, where in the wild card there's one obstacle and it's more for bonus points if you get your horse to go through it or whatever it is. And so but the main event, you got to do the walking, the trotting and all that, and then they have a trail course, whether it's walking, watching some of Nick's old videos. There's one where he had to walk across a kind of a water tank that they had out there that had some little floating balls over it, or you got pool noodles that are pointed the same way and you gotta ride your colt through those. There's a bunch of different little obstacles like that you gotta try getting your colt through. And so that's what's different than from the wild card, which is a lot more challenging, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I remember Nick talking about it, and I guess one year he did it, they had 3 horses, and then you narrowed it down from there. But the one horse he didn't keep was the only horse that didn't buck when he saddled him. But he said he felt like that was the one horse that didn't have the guts or the constitution to hang with him through the obstacle course, which is that's a factor in that deal. When you're starting horses, given all the time in the world, you can get them all confident about that kind of stuff. But there is a big personality dynamic that comes into, in your case, it's really luck of the draw. But yeah, it would be really interesting to see, because I imagine it's one of those deals you can prepare, and then once you're in there, like you just have to play the hand you're dealt, you know?
Yeah. And like I said, it goes right back to having the advantage of having Nick in my corner, because he's been there and he knows me really well. And so if he can kind of help me through a bunch of that stuff,
Yeah.
where, like I said, huge advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you coming through his program, and that's obviously Cowboy Week. Nick and I were talking about that a little bit. Like, it's cool how all these guys that have worked for Nick have come back, and they're out in the world kind of doing their own things, whether it's, you know, you or JD or whoever, and they've kind of put their own spin on what they've learned here. But there's like a common language because everybody's kind of been a part of this program and has all the kind of shared principles. So yeah, obviously you guys knowing each other so well, you'll be able to communicate really easy, and hopefully you'll get some good guidance, or he'll put some guardrails up where you're like, I would not do that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the guy has a world of knowledge, and like I said, I'm super honored to have him in my corner.
Yeah. Great, man. Great. Well, yeah, I think it's part of the reason I wanted to get you on the podcast. I think it's going to be a really cool opportunity for you, one, but all that other stuff you just mentioned, the family ranch and the horse sale and the broodmare program, it's good press, really. And you know, the success might work out, however, in the actual competition, but people will see, like I've seen you, that you're handy, and like now more people can see that. So that's pretty cool. I wanted to talk to you've been out of Nick's deal for a little under 2 years now. For you personally, like at the ranch, like what are your goals moving forward? And right now it might be hard to look past Road to the Horse because that's like such a big thing. But moving forward, like what are your views for the business and you personally?
Yeah. Well, of course, biggest goal for this year is just Road to the Horse.
Yeah, you've got D-Day coming up. You're not thinking past the end of March.
Yeah, so that's kind of my main focus right now, but I just, in any business, I just want to better it the best way I can, whether that's the horse side of things, or the cattle side, whatever it is, wherever I can be the most helpful and help build it, I'm more than willing to go do all that stuff. And so it's like I said, it just goes back, I guess, to down here where Nick's helped me a lot with how I think about certain things and stuff like that, where before I came here, I was the little brother at home, and which is not a bad thing. Like, I was young, like I still am really young, but going out, growing up, and kind of becoming a man out in the world, and having that experience and doing stuff, when you come back, it's you have a little bit different take on life because you haven't just been on the family ranch and dealing with being with brothers and stuff like that. You've gone out and worked for other people and saw what they do, and like bringing that back and being like, hey, this is what I've learned, like what do you guys think about this process of certain things? And so that's been a lot of fun, and just being able to have that experience from working out in the world.
Yeah. Well, you have a sense of identity now that's just you.
Yeah.
And that's really important. It's important for everyone, but I think young men especially. I know that was something like 20, 21, 22. That was something I really struggled with. so when you do have that, and like, you know, I come from a family ranch where I'm the 8th generation, so I get it, where you're kind of just the kid on the place, right? And you see the world differently, and you get looked at differently. So you got to go out and kind of make your own deal, and then you can come back, and it's almost like you have a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
A little bit. Because before, like, you're like, well, from my experience, like, Joe, you've been here your whole life. Like, we've all seen your experience, you know.
Yeah. And that's what I just thank my mom and dad for, is they, their rule was after high school we had to leave the ranch for at least 4 years. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't matter if it was go to college or go work somewhere, but it's like, you're not going to be on the ranch for these next 4 years at least. Like, they wanted us, just like you said, go find our identity and figure out what we want to do in life. And if it's ranching, great, we can come back, we can help with all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If it's mechanicing or whatever it is, like, just go find what you want to do. And I really thank them for that, because like, it would be really easy for mom and dad to be like, oh man, we need your help here on the place, like, stay and like help us run it.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of families do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where kind of families get kind of blown up, because the kids in a way feel obligated to stay,
Yes.
and then they get burned out, where going out and seeing the world and being like, man, it makes you really appreciate home. You're like, man, home is not that bad. Or like, man, I don't want to go work with cows, I want to go weld or go do something. It's good to go just get out and figure out what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more, because I've seen the same thing where if you don't go out and then actively choose to come back, the kids can almost feel just beholden to the parents and the ranch and the whole deal.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, that ends up just being a not fun situation for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think your parents were really wise with how they handled that. And they must, you know, run a place that's not too bad, because you and your brother came back, didn't
Yeah, there's actually pretty much every family member came back, which is, I have 3 brothers and a sister.
they? Oh wow. Okay.
So,
awesome.
Yeah, so we all,
And everybody
left, and everybody kind of came back and are doing their own, whether they're split off on their own places or something like that. Like, they all of us have circled back to ranching.
Gotcha. And you're the youngest in the
Yeah.
group? Okay. So yeah, that would be really hard. It would be the youngest of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you went and found some identity.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. Well, yeah, I think it's really exciting. I mean, it's kind of like you couldn't really have a better narrative in my mind, where it's like small town ranch kid, and clearly has some talent, and has gotten around the right people, and has gone back to the ranch, and then now you've got this opportunity in front of you. And that being said, you know, this isn't like, I know this is a big highlight of your year, but it won't culminate. This 3 years down the road, it won't be a big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are you trying to get done the rest of the week?
We've just been playing with Colts, and
I mean, you personally. Like
me
your
personally?
Yeah, like what do you have going on? Not like Cowboy Week B-roll. I want to know what Joe's trying to get done.
I have a big, I can't change leads very well.
Okay.
And so that's kind of a big thing, like where the weather's a lot nicer these next few days, I want to get out in the big arena and get some help on that.
Okay.
I need help in a lot of places, like spinning and doing all the other stuff, but that is one that I pretty much cannot do. Like,
Yeah.
I struggle the most with that, and so I want to, why there's so many people knowledgeable here, I want to be able to get some help with that on some drills or whatever it is to be able to take home and work on.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'll be bellied up to the fence because I hate lead changes.
Yeah.
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 I can. I'm also like barely figure those things out.
Yeah, so we'll see how it all goes, but yeah, that's kind of my biggest goal for this week.
Okay. Cool. And is that going to be on the big black horse that?
Most likely, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a cool. Now is that one y'all bred?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's a home raised colt, and I started him down here and rode him with Nick and stuff, and got him really good, and went back home, and my mom kind of fell in love with him, and so I was like, well, like, you can just ride him. She's like, well, how about I trade you some cows and stuff, like, for him, and I was like, okay. So I traded her for him, and then she's like, but one thing is you gotta keep riding him. I was like, oh darn.
Yeah.
So I was like, my favorite horse, I got him sold and got some money for him, and I also get to keep riding him. So
Yeah, it stays in the family.
yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. So when you're working on this stuff, are you working on the horsemanship for the horsemanship's sake, or do you have aspirations to show more, even if it's just at a local level, or just make your ranch horses nicer because that's part of your product? Like your passion's obvious. So like you could just be working on it to work on it, but is there anything behind, like why would you want to change these better?
It's kind of all the above. I want to possibly go show and stuff, because like I said, I bought that little Stevie Ray Vaughan stud, and so I would like to go show him a little bit, and it's just one of those things, like, I know it's a weakness, and so I want to be able to get good. I want to work on my weaknesses, because it's really easy. Like, I've hid from it for a long time, and I'm kind of very self-conscious of it, and so I want to get out of my comfort zone, because that's what's fun about Cowboy Week is it's a very good place to get out of your comfort zone, because there's not a lot of judging going around.
Yeah, not at all.
They all want to help, and so it's an easy place to be like, hey, I'm struggling with this, and a lot of people come help you, and not be like, oh, you don't know how to change leads? Geez, come on, they're easy, you know?
Yeah.
And so having the knowledge here, like, that's why I want to work on that, because I have a bunch of other stuff for stopping or turning around, and so I want to get some little exercises for lead changes.
Yeah.
My arsenal of exercises is very low in that area, and so build that arsenal up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool, man. Like I said, I'm gonna be watching you the whole time, but yeah, this is such a fun deal. Like, being out here, I think you realize it, but from the outside looking in, like, I didn't know anyone here besides Nick, and then came and met everybody and saw the whole deal. It's a good thing you appreciate how rare this is, because this doesn't exist a lot of places. So.
Yeah, or anywhere really.
Yeah, not
It
that
is.
I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't know where this many guys that are in such a high level can come and coincide so well with each other.
Yeah. But again, too, I think Nick fosters that environment. Where even the help he has now, maybe some younger folks, like, it's not like anyone's on a tier system.
Yep.
Right? You can sit down next to anybody and strike up a conversation, and it's not don't talk to the saddler, don't talk to the loper type deal.
Yeah, for sure.
So cool, man. Well, if people want to, like, look up your When's Road to the Horse, When are you competing?
It's the end of March, so like I'm gonna compete. I think like the 24th and 25th,
Okay.
and then the main events from the 25th to the 27th, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. And people, you know, you can either watch it in person or it's live streamed and
Yeah.
everything.
Yep.
Yeah, because you'll probably have plenty of family back home.
Yeah.
You got people coming to support
Yeah, I
you?
got a lot of family coming
Good.
over and stuff.
Good. Yeah, I was texting my wife the other day because we're not far from Lexington
Oh, nice.
at all. I was like, what do we have going on that weekend? I got a buddy who has a ranch just outside of there that I would go and stay with whenever. So I was texting her. I was like, we might have to pop over that weekend if they're going to be around and we don't have anything going on. But yeah, so see that, and then if people want to look up your family ranch or the horse sale or anything like that, where's the best way to get a hold of that?
Just online, RHS, Rancher's Horse Sale,
Mm-hmm.
and it will pull up our page and it gives the background of our family and stuff and the background of the horse sale.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, we're looking forward to March, and I'm sure you'll crush it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.